Sign it right now, Brenda. All $1.8 million belongs to your sister. You don't get to keep a single cent. My father slammed the Kinko's folder on my kitchen table, veins bulging on his neck. My mother leaned in, her voice ice-cold and venomous. Ashley has 3 children. What do you have? A pathetic job wiping dying old people's asses. This is family money. You stole it from her the moment you won. 90 minutes earlier, my dying grandmother had pressed 2 crumpled dollars into my hand and whispered, "Buy me a Willa's Wednesday." I scratched the ticket and won $1.8 million. I didn't argue. I smiled sweetly, took the pen, and signed their paper. I even slid it back with both hands like a good daughter. They were already celebrating with chilled wine when my father's phone rang. He answered with a smug grin. The woman from the state lottery asked one simple question. His face turned ghostly white. The wine glass slipped from his fingers and shattered across the floor. My name is Brenda, and I'm 35 years old. If this story is already making your blood boil, hit like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely want to know what happened after that phone call. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I read every single one. To understand what my father heard on that phone call, you have to understand a woman who is no longer alive. My grandmother. 6 years. Every other Sunday. 40 minutes each way. Up Route 307 through Waverly to Rosewood Memory Care. The nurses there knew my coffee order before they knew my last name. 2 creams, no sugar, whatever was still warm at 10 in the morning. My grandmother's name was Wilhelmina Elizabeth Ashcroft. She was 84 years old, and for the last 6 years of her life, I was the only person in our family who visited her. Not my father, her only son. Not my mother, her daughter-in-law. Not my sister Ashley. Just me. I made her a music box for her 80th birthday. Walnut wood, brass hinges, a tiny mechanism inside that played "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" if you wound the key 3 times. I built it myself in the workshop of my downstairs neighbor, a retired shop teacher who let me borrow his tools on Saturdays. She held it for a long time when I gave it to her, ran her thumb over the grain, opened the lid, closed it, opened it again. "Beautiful," she said. "I'll keep something safe in here." I laughed. "Like what, Grandma? Rings?" She smiled. "Better than rings." I was 31 years old. I thought she meant a photograph, maybe her wedding band. I didn't know then how women who have spent decades being quiet plan for the day they will need to be heard. She had a phrase for the Pennsylvania lottery scratch-offs she liked, the $2 ones with the crossword theme. She called them Willa's Wednesdays because she had once won $40 on a Wednesday in 1974, back when she worked as a cashier at Bertelli's Gas and Snack out on Route 6. She was 33 then. My grandfather had walked out on her with a toddler and a mortgage. That $40 kept the lights on for a month. Every other Sunday, when I brought her a fresh scratch-off, she'd hold it up to the light before scratching. "Cash," she'd say. "Never card. And don't say my name at the counter, Brenda, not anymore." I never asked why. I just did it. She would hand me back whatever she won. $2, $5, once, 30. "For gas," she'd say. Even when she couldn't remember the year, she remembered that. The last time I saw her fully lucid before the morning she pressed those 2 crumpled dollars into my hand, she smoothed down my hair with her thumb and said something I have thought about every day since. "You're my quiet one, Brenda. The world doesn't know yet." My parents had a name for me long before I understood it meant a bill. They called me the responsible one. It started when I was 8 years old, and my sister Ashley, 5, blonde, already the family favorite, knocked my grandmother's Wedgwood plate off the coffee table trying to reach a cookie. It shattered. My mother didn't yell at Ashley. She looked at me, sitting on the couch, reading, 3 feet away, and said, "Brenda, Why weren't you watching her? I said I was sorry. I took the belt for Ashley twice more before I turned 10. My mother has a phrase for those years. She still uses it. Ashley is sensitive, Bren. You're built stronger. She said it in 1998 when Ashley broke the plate. She said it in 2003 when Ashley shoplifted a candy bar and I got grounded for not modeling better behavior. She said it in 2011 when Ashley got pregnant senior year and my parents pulled me out of my part-time job to help with the pregnancy. Then Ashley miscarried, and no one ever mentioned it again. Built stronger, built stronger, built stronger. By the time I was 12, built stronger meant built to pay. In March of 2023, my sister called me sobbing at 11:30 at night. Her husband Ronnie had a plan, a food truck, grilled cheese, gourmet. He needed $18,000 and Ashley knew, she knew, that I had exactly that in the savings account I'd been building for 4 years to trade in my aging Honda CR-V. She cried for 40 minutes on the phone. She told me she had never asked me for anything. She had asked me for 8 things. I wrote the check. The Halloran Grill opened on May 6, 2023. It closed on August 22nd. 5 months. Ronnie disappeared for 6 weeks and came back with a new plan. Ashley never once mentioned the $18,000. Neither did my parents. I stopped counting the loans at the 4th. This was the 7th. In September of 2019, when I finished my hospice certification and left my ICU job at Geisinger, I called my mother to tell her. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Wait, you're leaving real medicine to babysit people who are already gone? That's what my daughter is going to do?" I told her hospice nursing was about presence, pain management, family support. She said, "Presence? Well, that'll pay the mortgage." She did not ask me another question about my work for 6 years. Last September, driving home from a night shift, my father called to ask if I could send $2,000 for a leak in the roof. He said my mother was really upset. He said if I loved them, I'd figure it out. I hung up before he finished the sentence. I said to my dashboard, out loud, in an empty car, "They have never once asked what I'm built for." Somewhere in the middle of 2024, my parents stopped visiting my grandmother. I didn't notice at first. Rosewood keeps a paper visitor log at the front desk. A bound notebook with a green cloth spine, 1 line per visit. I sign it every time I come. Name, relation, time in, time out. It is a small thing, and I always did it fast. But one Sunday in September of 2025, I flipped back through the pages while waiting for Colleen Farrow, the facility director, to bring me a form about my grandmother's medication schedule. I turned page after page. My name, my name, my name, my name. The last time my father had signed was April 12th, 2024. My mother had never once signed in her own hand. Ashley's signature appeared once, in August of 2023. That was it. 19 months. I asked Colleen about it, and she gave me the polite smile she reserves for families who ask uncomfortable questions. "We don't judge, Ms. Grenier. Everyone visits when they can." I thought about that answer all the way to my grandmother's room. That afternoon, my grandmother handed me a stack of bank statements. She had folded them into thirds, tucked them inside a paperback of Anne of Green Gables, the kind of thing memory care residents keep around because the past is easier than the present. "2 of them, Brenda," she said. Her finger was steady, steadier than I had seen it in months. May of 2024 and October of 2024. $8,500 each. Cash. Chase Waverly Branch. I looked at the statements. Withdrawals. Signed with her name. I did not recognize the signature. "Grandma," I said, "do you want me to call Dad?" She reached across the blanket and put her hand around my wrist. Her grip was firm in a way I did not think an 83-year-old dementia patient could manage. "Not yet," she said, "but keep the statements. Somewhere safe." I tucked the paper back into my nurse's bag in the middle pocket, the one where I keep the paperwork for patients who are close to the end. I didn't ask why. I already knew. But I didn't know I already knew. Not really. Not yet. Thanksgiving Day, November 27th, 2025. I drove up to Rosewood at 10 in the morning with a slice of pumpkin pie on a paper plate. My grandmother was in the community room, sitting near the window, watching the parking lot. She was wearing the purple cardigan she had bought at Boscov's in 2019, and her hair was combed. "2 lucid days in a row, Brenda," she said as soon as she saw me. "You know what that means?" I did know. I had been a hospice nurse for 6 years. I had watched over 100 people die. I had learned to read the tells that families miss. Terminal lucidity is a gift, but it is a gift with an expiration date. When someone who has been unclear for months suddenly becomes sharp, remembering names, telling stories, asking questions, it usually means the body is preparing for the end. I sat down across from her. I put the pie between us. "Grandma," I said, "I'm not going to have that conversation today." She reached across and squeezed my hand. "You already had it," she said. "Last week. You know what to do now." She was right. A week earlier, on Thursday, November 20th, she had done something that changed everything I understood about her. But I have to come back to that, because everything that followed depended on what happened that Thursday, and if I tell you now, you will not feel the weight of the Friday that came after. The next morning, Black Friday, I was not planning to visit her again. I had a private hospice case scheduled at 11, but at 9:30 in the morning, something pulled me back into the car. I cannot explain it any better than that. I drove up Route 307, past the same tree line, past the closed for the Holiday County Courthouse, back to Rosewood. She was in the community room again, purple cardigan, hair combed. She looked up as I walked in. "I wasn't sure you'd come today," she said. "Black Friday. Everyone is shopping." "I'm not everyone," I said. "No," she said. "You're not." She reached into the pocket of her cardigan. She took out 2 crumpled $1 bills, folded together, and pressed them into my palm. "Buy me a Willa's Wednesday," she said. "Just one. Cash. Don't say my name at the counter." I hesitated. "Grandma," I said. "We said last week I would use my own money." She closed my fingers around the bills. "Today it needs to be mine," she said. "Trust me." I put the $2 in my wallet. I kissed her forehead. She smelled like lavender. Then I drove to Bertelli's. Bertelli's Gas and Snack has been open since 1968. Same green sign. Same fluorescent lights. Same peeling Formica counter with a rack of scratch-offs under a plastic guard. The owner's son, Sal Bertelli, was working the register that morning. He was 60 years old and built like a fire hydrant. "Willa's Wednesday, please," I said. "Cash. Just one." Sal reached under the guard and pulled the ticket. He slid it across the counter. I paid with the crumpled $2. I scratched it right there at the counter. I don't know why. I usually took them home. Maybe I already sensed something. Maybe because my grandmother had said, "Trust me," and I wanted to know the answer before I got back into the car. 3 numbers matched. Then 4. Then 5. Then my eyes landed on the prize amount printed in green ink at the bottom. $1,800,000. I read it 3 times. Sal was watching my face. He knew the tells too, in his own way. He had been selling lottery tickets since he was 17, and he had never sold one for more than $5,000. "Kid," he said, "put the ticket down. Don't fold it. Don't touch anything on it. Let me call retailer support." He picked up the black plastic phone bolted to the wall behind the counter and dialed the Pennsylvania Lottery hotline. His voice slid into the professional register that gas station clerks use when the ATM breaks or a customer tries to pay in Canadian coins. While he was on the phone, he glanced down at my hand. My car keys were resting on the counter. A small silver charm on the keychain caught the light. A tiny bird. Sparrow, maybe. My grandmother had given it to me when I graduated nursing school in 2013. Sal's face changed. "Kid," he said. "Kid, wait." He put the phone down. He came around the counter. He was looking at the charm. "Where'd you get that bird?" he said. "My grandmother." "Wilhelmina Ashcroft?" I felt the world tilt very slightly. "Yes," I said. He put both hands flat on the counter. He blinked. He did not say anything for what felt like a long time. Then he opened the cooler behind him, took out a can of Coke, and set it in front of me. "On the house," he said. "Your grandma bought me my first uniform, kid. 1974. I was 8 years old. My mom was working the counter here, too. My dad had left. Willa found the money out of her own pocket. She didn't tell my mother she'd done it for a whole month. She said she just found extra fabric in the back." His eyes were wet. "You tell her Sal Bertelli says thank you," he said. "You tell her that today." I sat in my car in the Bertelli's parking lot for a long time. The ticket was on the passenger seat, folded once inside my wallet. I had not started the engine. I picked up my phone. I found the contact I had saved the previous Wednesday. I typed one line. "It's today. Kitchen. 15 minutes. The reply came back before I could set the phone down. "On my way. Back door." I finally started the car. I drove the 15 minutes back to my house, a small 2-bedroom off Winola Road, with the ticket in my wallet and Sal's Coke unopened in the cup holder. I did not turn on the radio. I did not think about anything except the sequence of moves I had rehearsed for 8 days. You have to understand something. What was about to happen in my kitchen at 12:45 that afternoon, the notary, the form, the signature, the digital filing at 12:52. None of it was because I won the lottery. It was because of what my grandmother had done on Thursday, November 20th. That was the day I understood everything. 8 days before Black Friday, Colleen Farrow called me at 7 in the morning. I was still asleep. My phone rang 3 times before I picked up. She said, "Now," Colleen said. That is the only word she used. She has not said now before, Brenda. She said, "Call my granddaughter now." I canceled my noon patient. I got in the car in scrubs. I drove up Route 307 through a gray November morning, past the same tree line, and I did not stop for coffee. My grandmother was sitting up in bed when I walked into room 12. The music box was on her lap, resting on top of the quilt. She looked at me the way she used to look at me when I was a child and had done something right without being asked. "Close the door," she said. I closed the door. "Sit down," she said. I sat. She lifted the lid of the music box. Inside the walnut compartment, resting on the red felt lining I had cut and glued 4 years earlier, there was a small black Sony digital recorder. A single LED glowed green on its face. A thin black wrist strap was coiled beside it. "I told you I would keep something safe in here," she said. "I'm sorry it took 4 years." "Grandma," I said, "what did you record?" "Everything," she said. "And enough of them." She reached down and touched the recorder with one finger, gently, the way you touch something you are going to miss. "There is one file," she said, 63 minutes long. I named it, so you would know it was meant for you. Take the whole box. Take the recorder. Take everything I said. Everything is yours to decide now. Grandma, this is your box. It was mine when I needed to keep something safe, she said. Now you need it to keep yourself safe. Take it." She reached for the small canvas bag I always carried into her room. Her hand was shaking. She folded the music box into it herself, tucking the recorder under a fold of tissue. "Listen alone," she said. "Not in this room. Not in their house. In your car, if you have to. But listen. Today." She held my hand for a long time. "When the day comes, and it will come faster than you think, you'll know exactly what to do." I sat in my car in the Rosewood parking lot with the recorder in my lap and a set of headphones plugged into my phone. It was just before dusk. The parking lot was almost empty. Only a black pickup and the aide who was standing outside smoking. I pressed play. Her voice came through the headphones, clearer than I had heard it in a year. "My name is Wilhelmina Elizabeth Ashcroft. Today is August 15th, 2023. I am 82 years old. I am recording this because my son and his wife have been stealing from me, and I want my granddaughter Brenda to have proof when the day comes. Let me start with the accounts." She started to list them. Chase Waverly Branch, April 6th, 2021, $8,500 in cash. Signed with her name. But she said her son had done it. She had watched him practice her signature at her kitchen table in 2020, on a spare envelope, thinking she was asleep in the other room. 11 withdrawals over 4 years, $88,000 total. She had every date. She had every branch. She had one teller's name, a young woman named Grace at the Waverly branch, who had once looked confused when my father presented the withdrawal slip and asked to see identification, and then handed over the cash anyway because the signature matched what was on file. "That is just the money," my grandmother said. "The visits are worse." She told me about August 14th, 2023. My sister Ashley had come to Rosewood alone, carrying a folder from LegalZoom, pushing a pen into my grandmother's hand. "Grandma," Ashley had said, "Mom and Dad think it's better if the cabin comes to me directly." My grandmother had refused. Ashley had cried in front of her for 20 minutes. My grandmother had held her ground. "After she left," my grandmother said on the recording, "I told Colleen at the front desk to keep the hallway camera on. Always. Anyone. Especially family." She told me about my father's first visit in 2022. He had brought a durable power of attorney form from an online template. He had asked her to sign it. She had smiled and said she needed to read it in the morning light. That night, she had photographed every page and hidden the photos in an email draft she never sent. She told me about my mother's second-to-last visit in early 2024. My mother had gone through her jewelry box while she pretended to sleep. 2 of her 3 good pieces had disappeared that week. A gold cross her father had given her when she was confirmed, a pearl brooch. She never wore them, but she had photographed the box before my mother came, and photographed it again after. She told me about the pain medication. My mother had asked the day nurse in the spring of 2024 to leave the small brown bottle of oxycodone on the nightstand instead of in the locked cabinet, because Willa gets confused, and it comforts her to see it. My grandmother had counted the pills every night before my mother visited. She had counted them again after. She had written the numbers down in a small black notebook that Doris Palmer would eventually hand to me. 12 tablets were missing over 3 visits. My grandmother had said nothing. She had let my mother believe she was too disoriented to keep track. Then she said the sentence that broke me in the parking lot. "I let them think I didn't know, Brenda, to protect you, because I know how they'll come at you when the moment comes, and I know you. You would have started giving before I stopped being able to fight. This way, when I hand you this, I hand you the whole thing at once, and you'll know what to do." The recording ended with her humming half a bar of "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," the same melody as the music box. I sat in that parking lot for another 30 minutes before I could drive. Then I opened the Notes app on my phone, and I typed 3 lines. Marcia Hendricks, on call. Nora Whitfield, Pennsylvania lottery claims. Monday. Do not confront until Grandma is gone or until they cross a new line. The week between that recording and Thanksgiving was the quietest week of my life. On Monday, November 24th, I drove to the Pennsylvania Lottery Claims Office in downtown Scranton on my lunch break. I told the receptionist I was a hospice nurse, asking a question for a patient's family. I met a compliance officer named Nora Whitfield. She had straight brown hair pulled back with a plain clip and the tired eyes of a woman who processes other people's money for a living. She explained the winner's statement of sole ownership. She explained the second-page affidavit. She explained the courtesy notification protocol for any high-value prize where family members were named as no agreement parties. I wrote her extension in my phone, 2109. On Tuesday, I met Marcia Hendricks, a fellow hospice nurse turned mobile notary, someone I had worked with 3 years earlier during the pandemic, in a Panera in Dixon City. I told her the whole thing. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Call me any time in the next 6 months. I will drop what I am doing and be there in 30 minutes. Back door if you need it." On Wednesday, I met Marcia at my kitchen table and we walked through the state's e-claim portal step by step, using a test prize amount. She stamped a dummy form for practice. We closed the laptop when we were done. I made her coffee. She left through the back door, on foot, just to see if the route worked. If you are still with me right now, if this story is hitting something in you, I want to hear it. Tell me in the comments the word your family used for you. Responsible, strong, fine, sensible, whatever it was. I want to see it typed out. I read them all. So when I pulled into my driveway at 12:20 on Black Friday, November 28th, with a winning ticket worth $1.8 million folded in my wallet, I already had a plan for a fight I thought was still weeks away. The lottery was not what I had prepared for. I had prepared for the day my parents would drain the last of my grandmother's accounts. This was different. This was faster. But the plan still worked. Marcia pulled up at 12:30. She came through the back door carrying a small black case and a Dell laptop. "Set the ticket down on the table," she said. "Show me the numbers, then walk me through what you want." I walked her through it. She listened. She opened her laptop. The Pennsylvania Lottery e-claim portal was already logged in from our practice session 2 nights before. 2 pages, she said. You read each one out loud, I witness. Then I stamp. Then I upload. Page 1 was routine. My full name, Brenda Marie Grenier. Date of birth. Address. The serial number on the scratch-off. The prize amount. The retailer name. Bertelli's Gas and Snack. Grove Street. Dalton, Pennsylvania. Page 2 was the affidavit. I read it out loud. I, Brenda Marie Grenier, swear under penalty of perjury that I alone purchased the ticket bearing serial number 2544817 with my own funds, that I hold sole ownership, and that no verbal or written agreement exists conveying any portion of this prize to any third party. Marcia nodded. I kept reading. Parties with whom no third-party agreement exists include Clifford James Grenier, phone 5705550192. Priscilla Ann Grenier, same number. Ashley Grenier, Halloran, phone 57055502228. Marcia made a small mark on her witness log. This affidavit becomes part of the public record of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I signed both pages. Marcia stamped both pages. Her seal was a circle 4 centimeters wide, blue ink, the Commonwealth's seal in the center. She dated it, 12:45 in the afternoon, November 28th, 2025. She scanned both pages with the phone in her case. She uploaded them to the Pennsylvania Lottery e-claim portal. The confirmation email arrived in my inbox at 12:52. Preliminary claim received. File PAL-25-1128-B. Courtesy notification pending within 4 hours. She packed her kit. She paused at the back door. Your grandmother would be proud, she said. She already is, I said. She opened the door. By the way, she said, the courtesy notification usually goes out within an hour. You will get an email when they call your father. She left through the back gate. I sat down at the kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee. I looked at the ticket. I looked at the confirmation email on my phone. I checked the time. It was 12:55. The front doorbell rang at 1 o'clock exactly. Through the peephole, I saw my father holding a chilled bottle of Sutter Home Cabernet and a manila folder with the edges curling. My mother stood one step behind him, holding a canvas tote bag with 2 wine glasses visible through the fabric. He did not wait for me to open the door. He tried the knob. It was unlocked. He walked in. He walked past me. He walked past the couch. He walked straight into the kitchen. He set the wine on the counter with a small metallic clink. Then he slammed the folder onto the kitchen table. I have already told you what he said. What she said. What I did. But you need to see the folder. 8 pages. Cambria font, size 11. HP inkjet. A little smudged around the edges. The header at the top of the first page read, Agreement of Family Distribution. Below it, a made-up logo in navy blue. The words Grenier Family Trust, arranged around a shield my mother had probably designed on Canva that morning. Page 3, halfway down. Beneficiary. Ashley Grenier Halloran, $1,800,000. A signature block at the bottom of page 8, pre-signed by my father in blue ink. A blank line for my signature. No notary section, no stamps, no serial numbers, no mention of Pennsylvania. In the footer of page 1, in tiny gray text, someone had forgotten to remove the words, Template prepared with LegalZoom. I turned to page 2. Blank. Just blank paper. A placeholder. My mother watched my face. Don't sit there and act like you understand money, Brenda, she said. You spend all day with people who don't need it anymore. This is real life. This is a family that has been carrying you your whole life. You want to know what your sister did last week? She sold her wedding ring to buy Christmas presents for her kids. That's what real people do. I did not answer. I set the folder back down. I walked to the coffee maker. I poured myself a fresh cup, slowly, evenly. I did not offer them any. I sat back down at the kitchen table. I picked up my father's pen. It was a cross ballpoint, black barrel with gold trim, the pen my mother had given him for their 30th anniversary. He had brought it to my house on purpose. He had been carrying it in his shirt pocket for the drive over. I signed page 1 on the signature line. I signed page 3, next to Ashley's beneficiary declaration. I signed page 8, next to my father's pre-signed signature. My handwriting was neat, even. I did not shake. I closed the folder. I folded it in thirds, the same way Marcia had folded my real form 15 minutes earlier. I placed my palms flat on either side, and I slid it back across the table, with both hands, like a good daughter. There, Dad, I said. All 8 pages. Are we good? My father read page 1. He saw my signature under his. He smiled the way he used to smile when I was 6, and I had done what I was told without arguing. That's my girl, he said. That is how family works. He turned to my mother. She was already opening the wine. She poured 2 glasses. She poured a third and slid it across the table to me. She lifted hers. To the family that stays together, she said. I picked up my glass. I did not drink. My father lifted his glass toward mine, and just as it was about to touch, his phone rang. The screen said unknown caller, 717 area code. He did not recognize the number. Probably the bank. he said to my mother, still smiling. Told you it would move fast. He tapped the speaker. He answered with his professional voice, the one he used to use in meetings when he was still a floor manager at the Sam's Club up in Dixon City. Clifford Grenier speaking. The voice on the other end was even, calm, female. Mr. Grenier? This is Nora Whitfield from the Pennsylvania Lottery Compliance Office. I am making a courtesy notification regarding your daughter's claim. Do you have a moment? My father's smile stayed on his face. It just stopped moving. Certainly, he said. Sir, Nora said, we received a winner's statement of sole ownership under Ms. Brenda Grenier's name alone, notarized at 12:45 this afternoon and filed at 12:52. In the affidavit on the second page, she listed you as a party with whom no third-party agreement exists. Per state protocol, I am required to call each listed party. So I need to ask you directly, sir, do you dispute her sole ownership? Because I have you on the record now. The kitchen went very quiet. My mother's wineglass was halfway to her lips. It stopped there. My father did not move. I'm sorry, he said. Can you repeat that? Nora repeated it, slowly, word for word. She used the phrase, the second page, twice. She used the phrase, sole ownership, 3 times. My father lowered the phone. He set it down on the kitchen table next to the folder he had slammed on it 4 minutes earlier. His hand was shaking. I had never seen his hand shake before. Brenda, he said. His voice was thin. Brenda, what did you sign? I set my coffee cup on its saucer. The right one, Dad, I said. Half an hour before you got here. My mother reached forward and grabbed the folder. She flipped to page 2. It was blank. She flipped to page 8. She looked at my signature. She looked at his. She looked back at page 2. There was no state seal. There was no QR code. There was no timestamp. There was no serial number. There was Cambria, size 11, on plain HP printer paper. Her face changed the way faces change when a person watches a house burn down and realizes she left the door unlocked herself. You lied to us, she said. Her voice was shaking. The venom was gone. Something else came up under it, softer and more desperate. Brenda, we are your parents. The Lord sees what you are doing. He probably does, Mom, I said. Do you? The wineglass slipped out of my father's fingers. It hit the corner of the table on the way down. It hit the hardwood floor. It shattered. 6 large pieces. A puddle of Cabernet spreading in the shape of nothing in particular. I could smell it. Wine, coffee, my father's aftershave, and the faint chemical smell of my mother's fresh printer ink from a folder that meant nothing. Nora Whitfield was still on the line. Sir? She said from the speaker. Sir, are you there? Do you dispute the claim? My father stared at the phone. He did not answer. I'll take that as a no, Nora said politely. The file will be finalized on Monday morning. If either you or your wife wishes to contest, you have 30 days from today's date to file with the compliance office. Thank you for your time, Mr. Grenier. Have a lovely holiday weekend. She hung up. My father stood up, slowly. His chair scraped back against the tile. He looked at me. He looked at the wine on the floor. He looked at the folder. He did not pick it up. He walked out of my kitchen. He did not stop at the front door. He walked straight to his car. My mother stared at me for what felt like a long time. Then she stood up, picked up her tote bag, and followed him. She left the folder on the table. She left the 2 full wine glasses. She left the shattered one on the floor. The front door closed behind her, and the house went quiet again. I sat there for a long time. Then I stood up. I got the broom from the pantry. I swept up the glass. I did not cry. If your parents ever told you that you owed them for existing, leave a single word in the comments. Anything. I will be reading them tonight. The next morning was Saturday. Ashley did not call first. She showed up at 9:15 with all three of her kids and Ronnie standing behind her on my front porch. She was wearing an Amazon Prime hoodie. Ronnie was wearing a Yankees hat despite the fact that it was 31 degrees. I opened the door because I could see the kids. Tyler is 7. Maddie is 4. Jasper is 2. Tyler looked confused. Maddie was chewing on a scarf. Jasper was asleep on Ronnie's shoulder. "Bren, we need to talk," Ashley said. She was already crying. "Dad called last night. He told me everything." "Come in," I said. "The kids can have juice. You and Ronnie stay in the kitchen." I made 3 juice boxes. I put them in front of the kids at the coffee table with a stack of picture books. I closed the sliding door between the living room and the kitchen. I sat down. Ashley started talking before I sat. "You have never had to feed a family, Brenda," she said. "You wouldn't understand. Ronnie is between jobs. The credit cards are at $46,000. The mortgage is 2 months behind. Do you know what it is like to explain to a 7-year-old why the internet got shut off?" I did not answer. "Grandma's cabin should go to me and the kids," Ashley said. "Obviously. It is more space than you need. And Mom said—" She stopped. "What did Mom say?" I asked. "She said Grandma had already said the cabin was ours, Mom and Dad's, so of course it would come to me, because I have the kids." I did not correct her. I did not tell her that Grandma had never said any such thing. I did not tell her that our grandmother had already deeded the cabin to me in a will signed in 2019, and that the only way our parents could have believed the cabin was theirs was if our grandmother had told them a specific lie, on purpose, to see what they would do when they thought they had won. I let her keep talking. Ronnie stood in the corner of the kitchen the whole time. He did not say a word until Ashley ran out of steam and started to gather up the kids to leave. Then he stopped at the doorway. He did not look at me directly. "Just make sure nothing happens to that money before Monday, sis," he said. "Would be a shame if something did." He walked out. I locked the front door behind them. I checked it twice. Ronnie does not make threats. He drops them, like keys, and lets you decide whether you will pick them up. I did not pick it up. I called my next-door neighbor, Delaney Rowe, an ICU nurse I had worked with at Geisinger, and asked her to sit at my kitchen table with me for the rest of the afternoon. She did. She brought her dog and a bottle of ginger ale. We did not talk about my family. We watched a very old episode of a very old cooking show, and she cut up a Granny Smith apple and shared it with me. And at 4 p.m, she put her hand on top of mine on the table and said, "You are safe here." I believed her. On Sunday, November 30th, I drove to Rosewood. My grandmother was in and out. She recognized me for a while, then drifted, then came back. She held my hand for a long time. Her grip was weaker than it had been on Thursday. That was how I knew. "You listened," she said. Twice. Just that. I sat with her until visiting hours ended. Then I drove home. She died before dawn on Thursday, December 4th. Colleen called me at 3:22 in the morning. Her voice was gentle in the way people who work with the dying learn to make their voices gentle. "She is asking for you, Brenda. Come now." I drove up Route 307 in the dark. The road was empty. There was a thin fog low over the fields, and my headlights cut through it. I did not turn on the radio. I did not cry. She was still with us when I arrived. She was in bed. Her eyes were closed, but her hand was reaching for the space beside her, the way people who know death is coming reach, for whatever might be there. I sat down. I took her hand. She opened her eyes. "You came," she said. "You listened. You are the one who listened." I said, "Grandma, I am here." She smiled. A very small smile. It stayed on her face for maybe 8 seconds. Then she closed her eyes. She stopped breathing just before sunrise. Colleen came into the room a few minutes later. She was crying. She stayed with me while I sat next to my grandmother for a long time, until the morning shift arrived and the machines were quiet. Before I left, Colleen handed me a small USB drive in a plastic case. She asked me to give you this at the end, she said. It is 26 minutes. Hallway 2, August 14th, 2023. Your sister brought a document. Your grandmother refused to sign. I logged it in an incident report on the same day. The report number is on the drive. I put the USB in my coat pocket. Doris Palmer, my grandmother's roommate of 4 years, knocked on the door as I was leaving. Doris is 82 years old and wears the same pale blue cardigan every day. She held out a small black moleskin notebook. She wrote things down when she was clear, Doris said. Names, dates, what people said when they thought I couldn't hear. I don't hear well, but I hear enough. Take this. I took the notebook. I held it against my chest for a moment. Doris, I said. Why now? Because she asked me to give it to you when she couldn't anymore, Doris said. You are the one who listened. That is what she called you. I signed the visitor log on my way out. In the timeout column, I wrote 6:03 in the morning. In the purpose column, I wrote one word, granddaughter. I did not write anything else. The funeral was on Saturday, December 6th, at Snyder Chrisman Funeral Home in Waverly. 24 people came. My grandmother's neighbor from before the memory care years. A woman named Ruth from the church she had attended in the 70s. Sal Bertelli, Colleen, Doris, in a wheelchair, in her pale blue cardigan, Delaney Rowe, Marcia Hendricks, Terrence O'Brien, my grandmother's attorney. The rest were people I did not recognize, but who had loved her. My father and mother came. Ashley did not. She sent a text saying the kids were sick. I gave the eulogy. It was 4 sentences long. My grandmother lived 84 years. She was quiet for most of them. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she was waiting for the right person to listen. She let me be that person. I will spend the rest of my life earning it. I stepped down from the podium. My father tried to catch my elbow as I passed. I turned my face away before he could speak. I sat down between Delaney and Marcia. I did not look at my parents for the rest of the service. At the graveside, when the ceremony had ended and most of the mourners had turned toward their cars, Sal Bertelli walked up to me. He was holding a small paper bag. Something I found in my mother's attic in the summer, he said. I was going to bring it up here to see her. I never got the chance. He pressed the bag into my hand and walked away. Inside was a small black and white photograph in a cardboard frame. My grandmother, 33 years old, standing behind the counter at Bertelli's in 1974, in a striped apron, holding a broom. She was smiling. It was the smile of a woman who had made it through another winter. I looked at the photograph for a long time. Then I put it back in the bag, and I put the bag in my coat pocket, next to Doris's notebook. My father was standing about 30 feet away, next to the empty hearse, watching. I did not know how long he had been watching. He took one step toward me. Then he stopped. He looked at Sal walking away, at the small brown paper bag in my hand, at the people around the grave who had known my grandmother in a way he never had. He turned around and got into his car. He did not come back to the small reception at the funeral home. I heard later from Delaney that my mother waited for him in the parking lot for a full hour before he came to pick her up. Delaney had watched her stand there through the window. She said my mother did not check her phone once. She just stood there. On Monday, December 8th, I drove to Terrence O'Brien's office in downtown Scranton for the reading of the will. Terrence had drafted it in 2019, when my grandmother first moved to Rosewood. She had never changed it. He said so at the beginning. The will was 22 pages. The cabin in the Poconos, 2 bedrooms on Lake Wallenpaupack, purchased by my grandmother in 1979 for $11,000, currently valued at $220,000, was left to me. The savings, $114,000 in a Charles Schwab account, was left to me. The music box was left to me. A small trust account, which had once held roughly $100,000 but was now showing a balance of zero, was to be divided equally among my parents, Ashley and me. 4 ways, 25% each of zero. Terrence looked over the top of his reading glasses at my father. "Your mother instructed me to include page 17, he said. "She told me you would want to hear it." My father did not move. Terrence turned to page 17 and read, "Note from the testator, dated August 15, 2023. To my son Clifford, if you are hearing this read aloud, it means I have died and my will has been opened in front of you. I want you to know something. 2 years ago, I told you Brenda was not in my will. I told you the cabin would be split evenly among the 3 of you. I told you the savings would be divided the same way. That was a lie. I said it so I could see what you would do. I have my answer now." The room was very quiet. My mother stood up. She walked to the window. She did not turn around. My father read page 17 twice. He did not say anything. I signed the executor documents. I left. On Tuesday, December 9th, I emailed the USB from Rosewood to my father, my mother, and Ashley. The subject line said, "Please watch attached before contacting me." The body of the email was 2 sentences. Attached is 26 minutes of hallway footage from Rosewood, dated August 14th, 2023. My grandmother asked for it to be preserved and shared when the time came. 3 hours later, Ashley called. I did not answer. She called 11 more times over the next 2 days. On Thursday, December 11th, I sent one last email. No subject line, 3 sentences. "You have taken from me for 35 years and from her for 4. I am done. Do not call. Do not visit. Do not send holiday cards. If you need medical care and cannot find anyone else, I will help. As a nurse, not as your daughter. That is the only door left open. Brenda." There was no reply, not from any of them. I did not need one. Christmas Eve was harder than I thought it would be. I did not go to my parents' house. I did not go to Ashley's. I did not go anywhere. I opened a can of tomato soup, and I sat on my couch with my grandmother's moleskin notebook, and I read the whole thing straight through, front to back, in one sitting. It took 2 hours. It was the closest thing to spending Christmas with her that I could manage. On Christmas morning, Delaney Rowe knocked on my back door with 2 mugs of coffee and a plate of cinnamon rolls she had made at 4 in the morning because she could not sleep. She did not say anything about my family. She did not ask how I was. She just sat down at the kitchen table and unfolded the newspaper, and we read the crossword together for an hour. Some people give you their attention. Some people give you their silence. Both are gifts, if the person is the right one. In January, an investigator from the Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office of Elder Justice called me. Colleen Farrow had filed a report the day after my grandmother's funeral. Colleen had documented everything for years. The incident with Ashley in August 2023, the changes in my grandmother's demeanor after visits from my father, the withdrawals my grandmother had reported to her privately. The investigator wanted the 63-minute recording. I sent it. I sent the moleskin notebook, scanned page by page. I sent the bank statements from the Anne of Green Gables paperback. Nothing dramatic happened for a while. In February, I got a letter from the same investigator. My parents had been offered a choice: pay $88,000 in restitution to my grandmother's estate, of which I was the sole heir, or face criminal charges for elder financial exploitation. They chose restitution. They took out a home equity loan against the house I grew up in. The check arrived at Terrence's office on March 3, 2026. I did not deposit it. I endorsed it and sent it directly to Rosewood Memory Care, marked in the memo line. The Willa Ashcroft Room. Endowment. In late March, Ashley left my parents. She sent me one email. It was long, and it was full of things she thought I wanted to hear. In the middle of it, she wrote one sentence that was probably true. I found out Mom lied to me about the cabin. She said Grandma had promised it to us. She said it for years. She knew there was no promise. She just wanted me to believe there was, so I would help them fight you. I did not reply. Ashley did not need a reply from me. She needed a therapist. I hope she found one. My father lost his volunteer position on the church board in April. My mother stopped teaching piano lessons in her home. I heard both things secondhand from Kenny at the church, the man who had originally called my parents about my WBRE newsfeed on Black Friday. Kenny had, without prompting, called me to tell me that he had misjudged people he had known for 30 years, and that he was sorry, and that if I ever needed anything from a neighbor, his door was open. I thanked him. I did not need anything from a neighbor. I had a neighbor already. I moved the music box into the cabin in the Poconos in early May. The lake was still cold. The dogwood was starting to bloom around the front porch. I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee and I wound the music box 3 times, and I listened to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, all the way through, twice, before I put it away. I built a shelf for it in the cabin's small guest bedroom. I put Sal's photograph next to it. My grandmother, 33 years old, in the striped apron, smiling at a camera in 1974. On Friday, May 22, 2026, Rosewood Memory Care held a small ceremony for the opening of the Willa Ashcroft Room. The room used to be a storage closet on the 2nd floor. Colleen had it cleared out over the winter. The endowment fund I had set up in March paid for the renovations. A soft rug, 3 armchairs, a small upright piano donated by a music school in Wilkes Barre, and a glass display case in the corner. I brought the music box up from the cabin the day before the opening. I put Sal's framed photograph on the wall beside the display case. 43 people came to the ceremony. Colleen, Doris in her wheelchair, wearing a new pale blue cardigan someone had bought her for the occasion. Sal Bertelli, with his wife, Marcia Hendricks, Delaney Rowe, Terrence O'Brien, Nora Whitfield, quietly, in the back. And a group of Rosewood residents, some of them lucid, some of them not, sitting in chairs in a rough half-circle around the piano. I said very little. I had asked the music school volunteer to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow on the piano, and when she finished, I said one thing. My grandmother once told me something, I said. She said, some of us keep quiet not because we have nothing to say, but because we're waiting for the right person to listen. She was mine. This room is so no one else has to wait as long as she did. I stepped back. 3 children from the daycare next door had wandered in through the propped open door. They had been drawn by the piano. One of them, a little girl, maybe 5 years old, walked up to the display case and looked at the music box for a long time. She tapped the glass, very gently. Doris rolled her wheelchair over and lifted the box out of the case. She wound it 3 times. She set it down on the rug in the middle of the room, and she let the little girl sit next to it, and the melody started to play. I stood in the doorway and watched. I did not step forward. I did not say anything else. I have thought a lot, over the last 6 months, about what my grandmother did. She was 82 years old when she started that recording. She was already forgetting the day of the week half the time. But every lucid afternoon, for 4 years, she planned. She kept her mouth shut. She sat with people who were stealing from her. And she smiled at them, and she let them believe she did not know. Because she knew who I was. She knew that if she told me too early, I would have started giving. She knew I was the responsible one, and she knew that my responsibility had been used against me my entire life. So she waited. She waited until she was almost gone, and then she handed me a music box, and she handed me 63 minutes of the truth, and she said, "Now you know what to do." And I did. I keep the small silver bird charm on my keys. I still drive up Route 307 sometimes, even though I do not have to anymore. There is a good coffee shop just outside Waverly, and the light in the afternoon is soft on that road. And sometimes I sit in the parking lot with a cup of coffee and I remember the woman who was quiet for 84 years, and I say her name out loud. Wilhelmina Elizabeth Ashcroft. Names matter. She was mine. And she got heard. If you have made it this far, I want you to know one thing. It is not too late to become the person who listens. To your grandmother, to your aunt, to the coworker no one talks to at lunch, to yourself, especially to yourself. My grandmother waited 84 years for someone to sit down and hear her. Do not make anyone wait that long, if you can help it. Tell me the name of the person in your life who has been quiet too long. Just the name. Sometimes being named is the beginning of being heard. And if you want more stories like her,